talking to. And Marshawn Lynch walked into the cabana that we were doing. And, yo, what's up, Marshawn? Like, we just want to say what's up real quick. And he was just like, no.
The off the block. What's wrong with you?
What's going on, Gen Thinkers? Y'all know who it is. Y'all know the vibe. It's your boy DWaugh. We back at it again with our third episode for ThinkinGenWealth. We on a roll, man. Let's go, man.
Let's get it. Let's get it.
So y'all know the vibe. You know, brother Wolf right here. You know us. But today we got a very, very, very special guest. The one and only Alex Caruso, a content creator, podcast owner, scaling all of his businesses at the same time, doing great things out here. So Alex, I'll let you introduce yourself, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited to be here to talk about just everything business-wise, to give the people a little insight on what goes on and behind the scenes of everything. But I appreciate you having me on. Excited to be here. I'm excited to talk everything.
That's a fact. We appreciate that, bro. We just got a few questions for you real quick. Obviously, we're going to do a full disclaimer before every video. Anything that's spoken upon this video is not financial advice. Make sure you do your own research. All the time to see what you're talking about. Like I said, it's not financial advice. Do with the information as you please. Mm-hmm. So, Alex, for our first question, obviously we're coming from pretty much similar areas. I don't know if you were in Westminster. You said
yep.
Okay. So Westminster, and I'm coming out of Gardner. So my first question is, there's nothing out there. You know what I'm saying? There's sticks, trees, there's not a lot going on. So what led to you wanting to become a content creator / podcaster?
Yeah, so I live in Boston now, and so how it really got started is a couple of friends of mine in Boston. I go to school at Suffolk University, and a couple of my friends of mine wanted to start a Boston sports podcast, all things Boston sports. This is about almost two and a half years ago, and we did about 2 episodes of the podcast, and they were tired of it after 2 episodes. They're like, we didn't want to do this anymore. It was super unprofessional. It wasn't anything crazy. And when they stopped, I kind of thought, I was like, oh, like this actually, like, I really enjoyed this. Like, I think it would be fun to like start my own podcast. And I thought about what to talk about. And, fantasy football was always a big passion of mine. So I figured, okay, why not start like my own fantasy football podcast? And from there, I started my own fantasy football podcast called the Fresh Fantasy Podcast. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no equipment. I had no sponsors, nothing. And I literally used to record just on the microphone of my phone. I didn't have a professional mic or a camera or anything. And that's all I did. But as I started doing that, I think every episode, my goal was always just like, how can I make it 1% better, like every episode? And that led me to getting a mic and a camera, lighting, everything like that. But I found that within the first 5 or 10 episodes that I really loved it. And I loved the adrenaline rush of the fact that like people were listening to my stuff. So that's where I went from my podcast my first year, and my second year last year is when I decided to like expand to TikTok a little bit and try to do TikTok. And within a couple months, my TikTok blew up, and then that became an avenue. And then this past year was kind of when I realized that like my following was starting to grow on all my platforms. And it was like, okay, like how can I build this into something bigger? And like, I knew that I was about to graduate and that I didn't want to have to get like a regular, big boy job. And that's when I kind of decided that like, this is the time to like take my shot and see if we can make this a full-time kind of thing. So like with about a year left in school, I told my parents, and I just said like, let's go balls to the wall. Let's give myself 1 year to do everything that I possibly can to set myself up to be able to go full time. And that's where my Twitter following and my TikTok following both kind of began to explode together, which is kind of where we are now, where I'm about to go full time into all this content creation stuff, the second I graduate.
That's real, bro. When you say exploded, you weren't lying, bro. You got like 34K on TikTok, 70 on Twitter, going crazy, bro. I'd love to see the progression for real, bro.
Seriously, and I was just having a conversation like, yeah, we got this guy on the show today. He has a lot of clout on Twitter. Twitter, if he has clout on Twitter, he's the real deal.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for that, bro.
Appreciate that.
So one question that I got for you: what are main challenges as a content? Like, how do you navigate through some of those challenges?
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenges are like the creativity. I think creativity can be your greatest strength, but also your biggest weakness, because like there's a lot of people that create content for one. So it's very saturated where no matter what topic you pick, there's probably someone that's making content about it. So number one, it's trying to make your content diverse, but always trying to come up with new ideas. Cause like at this point, I create content almost 365 days a year. And, during the NFL season, you kind of get like, you get set content, you know what you're doing every week because there's teams going on. But from the period of like January all the way up until football starts again, you have 9 months where there's no something direct for content. But the way to approach it is simply trial and error. And that's been everything for me. So every year, I create the content I create. I try to come up with new ideas. But so fantasy football season is just ending, like in this last couple days. So my January is going through all my old content, my old TikTok videos, my old Twitter threads, my tweets, everything, and figuring out what worked. So I can bank an idea in a journal of like, these are all the things that really worked for me to kind of give me inspiration when I come next year. So I at least have an idea of what I'm going on. So I think a lot of it is trial and error. And like when I, have a bad video on TikTok or I have a bad thread that doesn't do really well on Twitter, it's okay, why didn't this work? And I think that's been the biggest thing in navigating it, is trying to always figure out why did this work and why didn't this work, and trying to adapt based on those things, because you're always trying to think of new ideas, but you're always trying to adapt and make things better, and then also figuring out why things didn't work. I think the other challenge that I think is tough, I haven't had as hard of a time with this just because of how I grew up. Like my family is always banter, always making fun of each other. So like I have like thick skin. But I think one of the hardest things, especially the more my platforms have grown, the more people want to see me fail. So anytime I have like a misworded tweet or I say something wrong in a video, people are letting me know that I got it wrong and telling me that I'm the worst person ever and that they hope I, die like a fiery death or something like that. And, just one of those things that like it happens, and like I'm so desensitized to it now, it doesn't bother me. But at first, like if I get a hate comment, like I'd be going to bed and you think about it a little bit. So I think it's one of those things that you just have to understand what's part of the job, but also with everything, it's just a lot of trial and error and going through it, but trying to make sure that whether you succeeded or you failed, that you're learning from every situation, whether it's learning why you succeeded or learning why you failed.
That right there, bro. That's kind of, I feel like, what us from the pack. Because nowadays, everybody's trying to create a podcast of some sort with their own type of content.
Yeah.
We spoke on is exactly why a lot of them don't get further than 3 to 4 months in, is because they handle when one post does not go well, or one post doesn't get the same numbers, amount of likes, views, or interactions as you wanted it to be, and then they're like, oh, it doesn't work, let me stop it. Honestly, that goes for all businesses. Once you take an L, then people tend to step away, and especially with content, what you said was right, bro, because we haven't gotten to that point where people are sending us, oh, you got this wrong, woo, woo. We're talking financial piece. So if we do slip up with one thing,
yep,
execute us. It's gonna be crazy. So I can't imagine how it is to get through that. But at the same time, if you don't got haters, then you're not doing something right.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good point for a lot of people to touch up on, and to always remember that you got to make sure that you're striving for perfection. Mm-hmm. And even when you do mess up, you got to learn how to bounce back from it. And a lot of people, they're always going to want perfection. We're not perfect people. So the fact that we know that perfection is always wanted, but not all the time we're going to get it, is what makes that entrepreneurial spirit more stronger. So that's some good tips right there.
Yeah, and I think beyond that, I mean, I think it's the other part that I think that people overlook, and I would encourage people that are creating content. It's like you get to create content. Like, yeah, people are going to hate on you a little bit, but that's just part of the job. And I think that's another thing that one of my mentors had told me when I think I was struggling a little bit, with some of the things that people were saying, or it was bothering me. And it was like, my mentor was like, well, why are you doing this? You know what I mean? Like, this is part of the job. Like, there's other jobs that you could be doing, like a desk job or something like that. And those things have cons for different reason. For people creating content, one of the things that's always going to come with it is that like people are going to always hate on it. Like, I think a perfect example was last night, after the Damar Hamlin thing went down, I posted a tweet, with like the saying that, he went down, like this was the goal of his fundraiser, and they'd already raised 300,000. And below I posted the link. And I think now it's at like 9.5 million people have seen the tweet. And you'd think the NFL player goes down in the field, and I'm posting that a lot of people are donating, and I'm posting his link, and I'm still getting hate on the tweet. People are like, why are you posting this? Or why do people care about the fundraiser now? And like, the reason that I'm bringing this up is this is part of the job where no matter how good, something you tweet is, or, no matter how well something is right intentioned, like people are always going to hate on it. But I think one of the things that I always go back to, and I would encourage anyone creating content, is that like people are going to hate what you're doing no matter what, no matter how great your piece of content it is, or no matter how terrible it is, like people are always going to dislike it. And I think that one of the things that I think I'm still trying to work on, that's probably a flaw, is like I have to get better at, learning that whatever I'm going to post, like people are not going to like it. and you kind of have to just, deal with that. And you have to worry about, why are you making the content, and do you feel good about it? Because as long as you can go to bed or look at yourself in the mirror and say, I tried my best on that, or I had the best intentions, like that's ultimately all that matters. And the noise of like what people are always going to say is not. And I think I definitely struggled with that in the past a lot more. But I think once I got better at being able to look myself in the mirror and be like, you know what, I tried my best with this. And like, I tried to have my best intentions with everything I tweet or everything I post or everything I write. And I think that definitely changed my perspective with how I look at some of the outside noise that comes in with that.
There is going to be consequences to what you do, but at the same time, you got to figure out what's your why and let that strive you throughout the whole progression has throughout your career. That's real stuff. And you spoke on mentors. So my question is now, obviously you say you were in college and going through your last year coming up. What was, now that you're in this entrepreneurship mindset, do you think that college kind of played a role into you developing that? Or was that something you naturally grew upon by your
I think it's a little bit of everything. I think with that being said, like I think like being in school and like seeing other people go through it is definitely like obviously a really big part of everything. Because like again, like you're always learning in school and you're spending so much time around different people from different walks of life and different professors and everything like that. I think that's always a learning process. But I think for me it was both, because like while going through that, I think it also made me realize of like what do I want with my life? Like, do I want to be just another student that's going to get my 4-year degree and go and work like a 9-to-5 job like most of the people that I'm in class with every day? Or do I feel like that I'm capable of something bigger? And I think as I began to sit there every day and I'm like, do I really want to be doing this just like everybody else? And for me, I was like, I feel like I'm capable of something bigger. I don't know what it is, but I want to figure that out. I think that's when the mindset started to change of like, okay, like I'm sitting here right now every single day and I don't want to be like this, like for the rest of my life. I want to do something bigger. So I think that was motivation for me, is just like experiencing that every day and realizing that like I think I could do something bigger, like whatever that is. But I think the other part was just kind of intrinsic. Like I think my whole life, I think I've always been looked at myself like an underdog on every, sports athletic team I ever played on, whether it was my friends with grades, like I could never be number one. Like I got number 2 so many times or whatever, number 3 or number 4, but I could just never be number 1 no matter what I did. And I felt like that being able to do something that is up to me and the work I'm willing to put in and how much I'm willing to learn and how much I'm willing to devote to like what I'm putting out, like that finally gave me an opportunity to kind of like take control a little bit and go and chase after number 1, where I felt like I didn't have that, dog in me growing up. But I think because of going through that, I think it was like a chip on my shoulder that's always been there. And like getting to build my own platform and getting to create my own content, I think I always have that chip on my shoulder that people are always going to doubt me and think I'm the same kid that like could never be number 1. And I think that's something that pushes me and motivates me every day just because of how I grew up. But I think that also extends into like one of the things that I know you guys understand, like as content creators and people that are like involved in business, is like you have to take pride in the stuff that you put out in. Like I think that like I look back on my first podcasts or my first TikToks and like I cringe. And of course it's part of the learning process. Like you're always going to get better as you go. But I look back in those and I'm like, man, like, why didn't I take a little bit more pride or try to edit that a little bit harder? Maybe not try to talk into my phone as my first mic, but you have to just like dive in and learn, obviously. But I think like ultimately it's a pride thing sometimes where like I can't put out a piece of content because I'm like I know what I'm capable of and I can't let myself. So I think again, to sum all that up, I mean, it's just the 3 things. It's being in school and like, what do I want for my life? It's the underdog mentality, and then just taking pride in everything that you post. And especially with my platform now, like I have a lot of people that look at every single thing that comes out of my account. So if what comes out of my account sucks, like people aren't going to want to pay me for stuff. People aren't going to be willing to invest in my content if it isn't up to the quality that they're used to seeing every day.
Absolutely. I mean, and just the fact that you're talking about getting to that standard that you need in content. Obviously you needed a whole bunch of resources to do that, or you just needed the resources that you had. So going on top of that question, what resources did you use to educate yourself on how to scale your business?
People. That's I honestly like I was never like someone that is like a huge like bookworm. Like my grades are fine in school, but like for me it wasn't researching, it was talking to people. So like one thing that I actually don't tell a lot of people this because like I think that for me it's been like a secret weapon that no one else is willing to use, is that like my podcast is it's called the Fresh Fantasy Podcast, and the purpose of it is getting a fresh perspective on every episode. So in every episode in the off season, I get a different guest on in every episode. So someone in my industry that creates fantasy football content. And like, as you guys know, like we all come from different walks of life and different places, and we're different ages and different life experiences. So every time I have a guest on my podcast, every time after every episode, it's what can I do better? And if they don't have anything, it's always like, what would your advice to be to a 22-year-old kid coming out of school? Or what would your advice to be to someone that's trying to make it in this industry that's just starting out? And for me, like when I think this year I had about 55 different guests on my podcast. When you ask 55 different people, like those 3 or 4 questions, then all of a sudden you get like 200 different answers on like, what would your biggest advice be to someone my age? You get 200 different answers or like 50 different answers on like, what can I do better with my podcast? And I think that for me, it was always just like asking people who have done more than I have, and like trying to always surround myself with people that were more successful than I was, with people that had more followers than I did, and people that had more life experience. And when you ask those people that know more than you, they've been through more than you, and they've done more than you, and you ask them like how they got there, like it provided to be a really big resource. And I have a little notebook. I don't have it with me, but it's a notebook that like every time I met with someone, I'd write their name at the top of the paper. And while I'm like sitting there on Zoom or wherever it is, they can't see me writing, but I'm just taking notes on every single little thing that they're telling me. And like for me, it was always just trying to be adaptable, to listen to everything they say, whether it was feedback on my podcast or advice they had to someone that's my age, or like what would they tell themselves 5 years ago. So I always have like 10 or 15 questions prepared for every person I meet of like what would their advice be and everything like that, because like I felt like that I can always learn from people, especially people that are older than me and people that have learned more. So I think for me, it's just always trying to learn from people. But I think that as I've gotten a little bit older and, you know, you have to continue to step things up. The other thing I started to do is like beyond like people, and rather than like, I'm not as like much of a reader, but like, it's been like watching like YouTube videos and like how do people make successful podcasts or successful TikTok videos, or how do people like grow their Twitter following, and trying to find people that have done it beyond people that I'm interacting with myself, and trying to constantly find answers. The more answers you find and the more that you can apply them to what you're doing, the more that what you're creating is only going to continue to grow and improve in quality.
No, that is such a fact, though. I'm super happy you brought up the YouTube aspect, because I feel like when people hear like, oh, you need people, they tend to think they need that face-to-face interaction. And don't get me wrong, that is the best interaction to have with people, because that builds natural chemistry. But I feel like a lot of people coming into the content creating business or any business in general don't understand that there's literal tutorials on the internet. Like if you do literally Google or YouTube how to scale your content creating business, and they can boom, there's multiple resources to use. And those are all people creating those things. So one thing leads to another. You can be next to the person who created a whole platform that you've been following since you created your career.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing that people like don't always realize, and I didn't realize, I think until this year, but it goes beyond that with just like looking for people that like have the answers to the things that you're doing. So like, I mean, let me tell a story real quick. And this was like a life-changing experience for me. This past August. And I got like an invite on Twitter from a company called Circuit Casino. And I'm not really like a gambler. Like I'm more just like fantasy football type of things. And they reached out and they said, like, we really like your content. Like, would you like to like promote, you know, our brand like on your podcast? And I said, sure, we got a deal done, everything like that. But they said that we also like have like an event, you know, every week, like for the next couple of weeks in Vegas, where we have people that are competing in this contest that you're promoting come out here and like stay with us at our casino. And they said like, we'll like fly you out if you want to come. And like, I had a lot of things going on and it was busy, but they said like, we'll pay for your hotel, like we'll pay for your flight, you got to pay for your food and everything like that, but we'll fly you out. And I said, okay. And like your first thought normally would be like, okay, like let's go like live it up in Vegas. I've never been to Vegas before, let's party. But I got to bring my best friend with me, and ultimately I told him is like, this is going to be a business trip. So what I didn't know is that this is a true story. This still blows my mind every time, but we went, and at the first event we had, there was only like 8 people there, including me and my best friend. I don't know if how many listeners are from Boston that are listening, but Felger and Maz are like the premier sports radio guys in Boston. And basically we were in Vegas, and like it was the Felger and Maz version of Chicago. So 2 of the biggest radio guys in Chicago, their crew, and then me and my best friend who did not belong. And the other person that was at the event was the owner of the casino. And what I later found out, he's not the owner of just that casino. He's the owner of 3 casinos. And they brought me over, and he's like, oh, Alex, like I've been waiting to meet you. Like I've been reading your Twitter threads every day and stuff like that. And that was really cool. And like I appreciated that. But what I'm saying in the point of the story is that like when we came out here, like we could have like, partied with the owner and gone up. But for us, it was just like, how can we learn as much as possible from people that are not in our industry, that do stuff that is not like it? So whether it was with the owner of the casino or the vice president or their director of advertising or all the people that we were around, like I was firing off the same 10 or 15 questions to everybody. What would you tell to your 21-year-old self? Like, what's the biggest thing you're trying to improve on? What would you tell yourself 5 years ago? Like, how did you get far in your industry? How did you get to be an owner of a casino or the director of advertising at a casino? And these are all people that don't do fantasy football. They don't know anything about fantasy football, but they're all people that are experienced in their different fields, and getting more perspectives on people that have all been there and done it was so huge for me, because they're these people that are in widely different fields. Because I was confined to asking fantasy football people their life advice. But when you ask people that are in like, the casino business, whether it's an owner or in marketing or advertising or these radio guys like the Felger and Mass Chicago, and you ask all of them, like in their industries, how they got far and the things that helped them well. Like when you start to take notes on that, all of a sudden you have all these crazy tips from people that are really high up. And like, of course, like there's always part of me that wishes I just like partied it up more and just enjoyed that time in Vegas and like being 21 years old. But for us, it was just like, how can we maximize every single second that we are here and ask as many questions to these people that we'll probably never see again? Because like I don't have billionaire friends, but if we have one billionaire that I get to meet, like you best believe that I'm going to ask him every question and hound him as long as not. Because whether I hound him or not, like it doesn't matter if he has me back. Like I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity. So my point in all of this story was just that I never realized how helpful it would be from people with other industries, but also taking advantage of that opportunity and not using it as something to just have fun and be grateful for, but using every single opportunity as a place where I can learn and grow as both a person and as a content creator, especially from all these people that were so high up in all kinds of different industries.
Wow.
That's wow, man. I love the fact that obviously you spoke on, stepping away from the party and stuff like that. That's like, especially for people our age, that's the hardest thing for them to do sometimes. You gotta sacrifice something. Like this weekend, I got into it with my mom a little bit. She was like, "Oh, you need to buy new clothes." I was like, "Mom, nah, like I'm personally on my right to get my credit right, so I put my money towards that. I'm getting my clothes when I'm good." You know what I'm saying? So I commend you for that. Also, one thing I recognize too is those people that you spoke with may also see a value within you because you're bringing in a different market for their content. You see what I'm saying? One thing I always learned is that those people that you see who are millionaires and billionaires and are at a point in life where you want to be, the best way to get them to talk to you and give them the resources you need is to give them something they don't have. So with your mindset, you're coming in from an area like Boston and Mass in general. They coming in from Chicago. They come in like, okay, how does your audience interact with this type of content? What do you guys look for out here? How's your fan base, etc. And it's like those little things that goes back to what you said about people. Every business, that's the best way to scale something for sure.
And the value goes so far beyond that. I guess one other story from that weekend that like I didn't realize at the time but like ended up being really big for us, like you talked about, with especially like providing these people value. Because like I said, like the owner guy was like, I guess we looked it up on at least Google said that he's like a borderline billionaire. Either way, this guy's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And he was kind of like testing us a little bit all weekend. And one of the final things is like we had this day at a pool there with all the people that were with us. And at the end of the day, he said that like he came up to me and my friend. He said, "Alex, like I want you guys to meet me at this bar tonight, and I want you to meet my wife." Like this guy's like billionaire wife, and we don't know who else is gonna be there. He just said, "I want you to meet my wife." He's like, "Be there 8:00 sharp. Both wear your best suits that you possibly have." And we were like, whoa, like we got out of that conversation, like what's happened? Problem was we're going to Vegas and like we didn't have suits. Neither of us brought a suit because like we're packing like light suitcases to even make it work. So we didn't pay all these extra fees. And so this is like 6:00, right? And we have to meet this guy at 8. And we don't have suits. There's nowhere near us that we can buy suits. And we're like, what do we do? But this is like our opportunity to impress him. And so like we immediately like ran down to like where the garage was. And like we got an Uber that took us to like this like suit warehouse. We tried on like the suits, but they were like there was some kind of discount going on. So like my suit like didn't even fit me. Like my jacket was like 2 sizes too big and my pants were 2 sizes too small. But like we went as fast as we could. We ran back to the hotel and like put everything on. and like ran to make sure that we got there early because like we wanted to make sure that we like beat him. So we got to this bar like 20 minutes early, thinking that like, okay, like we got him, like we're gonna be here early, and he was already like sitting there with his wife, like right when we got there, and it was just like it was just like the craziest thing. And we went up and we talked to him, and then later that night he asked us, he was like, so like, he's like, where'd you get those suits? And like I actually panicked because I was like, oh man, like I feel like I'd be embarrassed if like I said that we just bought these suits right now, like we weren't prepared. So I was like, oh, we got them a little while ago, and I didn't specify. And he's like, when did you get them though? And I was like, I mean, we got them within like the last like couple weeks, and he's like, no, he's like, but like seriously, like, when did you get them? And finally, my best friend was like, we got them tonight, and he's like, that's all I was looking for. He's like, the fact that you guys were willing to like go out and like buy a suit, like when I asked you to, like speaks a lot about you guys and like what you're, you know, willing to do. And I think that's one of the things that go back to the values. You never realize like who's testing you. Like we thought we just wanted, like, just had to wear our best outfits. You know what I mean? But I didn't realize that he was kind of testing us to see that like if he's gonna throw us a bone, you know, for two kids like from like the middle of bumfuck nowhere, Massachusetts, and to give them a chance that like we could kind of come through in that moment and do like what he was asking. And like at that moment, he actually like ended up saying like, I'm really proud of you guys. Like that was really cool. And so this is like this actually just gets a little crazier. And then that night, it was like I forget the name of the band, but there was like a cover band performing like a street concert. And because like he's the owner, he has like VIP access, and he's like, I'll take you guys to the VIP access of this concert. So we got to like go to the VIP access thing, and we got to meet like a lot of cool people doing it, all because we went out and got the suits. And then you never realize that if you bring value to those kind of people, the kind of experience that come after, because we were just getting the suits because we were supposed to get the suits. We had no idea he was testing us. We had no idea we were going to get to go to a concert or do something cool. But I think like we created that value, like you talked about, for him, that like we were being willing to be expendable and like do what he was asking. And like we got rewarded because of it. And I think that like that all extends to like providing value to those people, but also making the most of every opportunity. That I might never ever meet another billionaire for the rest of my life, but in that one opportunity where you get to meet someone like that, no matter who it is, it's maximizing every second possible of that experience, because you never know what else can like come because of that after.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
You gotta write that in the book.
Oh, seriously.
No, that's a fact though. You saw the opportunity. Damn. Man. That's what's real. A lot of people don't see those opportunities. You kind of see them, get happy they had a chance to have it, but then it's like that. They need to play something. How that you jump in full swing and ran with it. That's what's needed when it comes to having any successful business or building any successful relationship that could be beneficial. That's crazy. Bro. My man ran the Uber. Let me get this tool right here. Yeah, I need it now. Huh? You good? Yo, bro, let's go. Ran back.
Yeah, it was one of those things that like you now like looking back out of it, like how did that just happen? But in the moment we were just like we gotta go, and like we can't like pass up the opportunity. The only thing that was bad about it, I will also tell, that's actually kind of a funny story in that whole experience. So this is like right before he told us the suit thing. This is gonna like forever bug me to this, like to the day I die. We were like networking in the pool and like doing my thing, like asking the questions, whatever. And do you know who walked into the cabana with the owner that we were in, like behind? I had my back turned because I was looking at the person I was talking to. And Marshawn Lynch walked into the cabana that we were doing. And I guess it was like like my best friend saw it because I wasn't paying attention. And like Marshawn Lynch went and was like dapping everybody up and saying what's up. And like if I like just had turned around, like I probably would have got to meet Marshawn Lynch. But then like after, like we watched the owner, like, so he told us about the suit thing, and the owner goes like down these stairs to leave, and we saw where he was walking, and he walked over to Marshawn Lynch again and like was like showing him like a trophy thing that he had and like everything. And we were like, damn, like we really missed out. But Marshawn Lynch was like, this is in Vegas. And he's like sitting outside in a pool thing. And we're like, dude, like we're never gonna get an opportunity like this to go like again. So we go down the stairs after we got changed because we didn't want to be like wet, like dripping as we were walking by Marshawn Lynch. And I walked up first. He actually got it on video. And I was like, yo, what's up, Marshawn? Like, we just want to say what's up real quick. And he was just like, no. Like we just wanted to say out, but I was like, yo, like I literally said, like I said word for word, I was like, we just want to dap you up real quick. And he's like, no. And I was just like, damn, like that is tough. And we just kept walking and didn't give him a hard time or anything like that. But he was like sitting out by himself. But that was the only thing that was tough about that day is like if I just turned around, like I could have got to meet him. But the other thing though is I don't know if I would have gotten out of the pool because I wouldn't have wanted to be that idiot that's like dripping wet, like that just got out of a pool. And I'm like, hey, Marshawn, as there's like water all over me, just like going on the ground. And like, I don't know if I would have got out, but it's one of those things that I can always say that I got curved by Marshawn Lynch, but it would have been so cool to get to meet someone like that. But it was, again, all in all, it was a once in a lifetime experience. And, we just hope that we can get back there someday to do something cool like that.
So another question I had, I get into the nitty gritty things. So
yeah,
been doing the content creation for a little bit. Do you have like any strategies of some sort when it comes to your platforms that you use to scale your business? Like for us, for Instagram, we do something where like we post one reel a day, and we have to post one video. We have to interact with as many accounts as possible. Something like that. You do similar?
Yeah, so I think for like there's a few different things to like especially to scale like a platform. I think number one that like is probably the most overlooked thing on the planet. And like for people that watch YouTube or like watch any type of content, I think they can actually get this. And you don't think about it. Is consistency.
No effort. We do this shit, nigga, no pressure. Yeah, no effort. Leave that boy in the white tee or sweater. Yeah, no effort. Me and Double O, tell me who better. Yeah, no effort. Bitch, no effort. No effort. We do this shit, nigga, no pressure. Yeah, no effort. Leave that boy in the white tee or sweater. Yeah, no effort.